I think that every artist, at some point, whether it's DNA or otherwise, instilled in them, there is a point, I believe, that physically and mentally they choose to go down this path of, being a creative person, whether it be writing music or whatever, and it's that passion, that pivotal point where the passion takes over. And I remember a story when I was in first grade. I was going to a Catholic school here in Sacramento. And there was this one point where the sister, the teacher there, said, we're going to have an art class today. And so the thing was, she says, okay, and she put on the board, she says it was just a simple drawing, line drawing on white paper of a sailboat. And it had the two sails and the little flag and the little rudder in the back, and very simple. And she says, okay, here's your paper, here's your pencils, and I want you to draw this, So I thought, oh, this is going to be good, because I'd already considered, I was already attracted to drawing, at home, you have the coloring books and all that sort of thing. Here I am, 6 years old at the most. And so we proceeded to draw, and I'm feeling really good about this, as a student, I never did very well in other subjects, but art was kind of the thing. So I started drawing this sailboat, and I'm thinking, boy, she's going to like this. This is going to be good. Everybody's going to like this. And at one point, I leaned over and looked at another boy sitting next to me, and for some reason, Danny Rodriguez comes to mind. But I look over and I see his, and I'm like, wow, his is better than mine. He's actually taken a different approach, and it's better than mine. The way he approached it, the way he's drawing it, and the way he had done it. And I looked at mine and I thought, geez, I always thought mine would be the best. And it was kind of at that point, it's kind of funny, because at that point I realized I really did want to be an artist. But then in that very simple scenario, I realized this is a challenge. And every artist, I think, could probably tell a similar story at what point they really decided, hey, I might be good at this, quote, good at this, and I want to do this, Who's going to spend 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours in front of something and not have the passion for it? It has to be instilled. It's not, you can't go by that sort of thing. I did these because it incorporated something that I've used in my life, and that's like mechanical drawing tools. Spent early years using mechanical tools, T-squares, etc. And it's like something that kind of flows through you. And so at some point you just figure, well, you're going to use those in your art. I'm going to use, that's part of my life. So I'm going to use it, and see where it goes. Part of that residue, part of that fragmentation that I talk about. There was a Mayan prophecy in the codices that was translated that said, on that day, and it stipulated, on that day this would happen, on that day this would happen. One of the things it said was, on that day the leaves will be blown about the forest and scattered about the forest. And in a sense, that kind of explains who I am. I'm one of those leaves. I've been scattered about the forest, and I take this memory with me, and this whole thing that resides in me. And then what comes out of that, what comes out of that funnel, things like this. There's that reoccurring target, native regalia, ritual, if you will, dress, textile patterns, native patterns, 4 directions, the cardinal directions of the universe. Right after getting out of high school, I had an experience, a personal experience that kind of stayed with me for even to this day, and that kind of gave me more of a direction to what I do, even now, to the present. And that was, I have a friend, my friend Julio lived in Nogales, right on the border between Nogales, Arizona, and Nogales, Mexico. And so he had spent his whole life there, and in Mexico, etc. His first language was Spanish, and so he was really embedded in that culture. And one day I went to visit him. We went to go visit his parents, who still live there, and we we took a little trip across the border. We went over there and we were walking around. It's typical Mexican town and street, you know, all the vendors and the craftspeople are all out selling their wares, etc. And as I was looking at him, a young Mexican kid came up to me, a little young vendor, and he comes up and he started speaking in Spanish to me. And because of the way I was brought up, because of what my mother believed, that she had so much trouble not speaking English well that she would not teach us Spanish. That was what she felt was right at that point. We're talking about in the 50s, you know. The vendor comes in and starts speaking to me in Spanish, and I told him I don't speak Spanish, and he kind of backed up and he kind of just chuckled and laughed, and he said to his buddy there, you know, something to the effect that this is a pocho or a dumb half Mexican. He's not even a real Mexican, you know. And my friend Julio, who was there, heard that, and he goes, "Hey, you know, I heard what you just said. You know, why do you have to be so rude? He's here he wants to purchase something from you, and yet here you are being rude to him." And so they had a conversation in Spanish, and the kid had basically said, "Well, he's not even from here. He's not even a real Mexican. He doesn't even speak Spanish, you know." And I remember feeling, you know, slighted, you know, like, wow, you know, I mean, that was kind of hurt my feelings, you know, that was rude, you know, and my friend immediately got mad and told him off. So this conversation went on, and it stayed with me for a long time, and it kind of resonated inside of me because, for many reasons, because I've always felt that, in a way, my life has been, just like probably everybody else, in a sense, is my life is fragmented to a certain state. You know, I mean, I'm not pure this, I'm not pure that, etc. But I am a mestizo. I am a half-breed, if you will, but I've been displaced from that whole in deep culture. But yet, I still have a comment to say about that. I still have something to apply to that, and along with my life experiences here in the United States. It's kind of a mixed bag of things that I can apply to my art and the way I see the world and the way I see my world. And so I feel kind of good about it. I'm actually kind of proud about the fact that I have that ability to do it, as well as the means to do it and the reasons to do it. And so that's when I'm faced in front of the blank canvas, if you will. It's those are the kind of things that come out, and those are the kind of things that are unplanned, and they keep me interested in doing what I do. At this point in my life, I find myself exploring in my art, just certain symbols, almost pop icons, you know, in the world that I live in. You know, I read a bio of an artist one time who said at some point every artist has to make a statement about the world they live in. You know, I've been known to romantically live in the past, you know, with the indigenous cultures and you know the pre-Columbian, etc. And you know and using those, and which is fine, and I still do in a sense. But I feel the need to incorporate other things along with kind of consolidating everything in my life that. You know, that it's going through me, you know, again, fragmented, you know, I consider this whole kind of this direction that I've been working through, and just a study and an exploration, more so, as compared to looking for a final product that, quote, will look good, you know, above the couch, you know, I think it's more important that I work through this and see what happens, and even though it may not be, quote, successful, it is successful personally because I've done, you know, I've found some things out about myself more so. I'm you know, it's kind of like that statement, you know, alone with yourself. You know, I find myself alone with myself, and everything that comes out of me is coming out in an art form. This little guy, his name is Mictlantecutli, and he is the lord of the underworld. He's a pre-Columbian deity that guided the underworld, the realm of the dead. And I produced him to make him look like he's ceramic or stone, and he even carries the burn marks from the firing, the different when they're fired in underground pits. They didn't use the sophisticated kilns; they used, you know, underground pits. And so I purposely put those marks on him to show that effect I gave him the textures, and he's very similar to the original artifact. And but he is made out of wood, and I gave him the effect that he looked like either stone or ceramic. As the people went down into the underworld, he would strip them of their flesh and then be the guard or the guardian of the bones. So and that's the mythology that went along with that. So I chose Kingsley because I wanted to make a statement, kind of a dual statement about, again, the world we live in, and using contemporary symbols such as the target here that I've been using repeatedly. But I just kind of took it to another level, trying to get people to look at it and maybe take it out of its context and put it in another context and see how it applies. I put him on top of this pedestal that I painted these almost like a DNA or a sperm-like activity that flows around it. And there's targets on each side, each similar targets on each side, and I purposely made the pedestal the shape of to represent like the Twin Towers. My statement here is that here he is waiting on a similar form that we all know, happened, and what man does to each other, and how sooner or later, etc., if we continue down this path, the world will be destroyed by ourselves. And so he's just kind of comically waiting there, just kind of laughing like, yeah, you're coming to me. So I look around here in my studio, I realize that this particular bowl right here, this is for basically cleaning my brushes, etc. I've used this continuously probably for over 15 years. It's got a lot of miles on it. It's like an old friend. It's funny because I'm really conscious about this, because when I come and clean my bowl stuff, I'm very careful. I don't want to drop it, or I place it on the corner. I don't want to knock it over or whatever, because it seems like in some way you daydream as you go along and stuff, and when you're in solitude for all these hours, sometimes I look at this bowl and I think to myself, when that bowl breaks, I'm gonna quit being an artist. That's kind of funny, but yeah.